There's Vicky.
Hi. Man, Rose looks really comfy over there.
Does she? I can't see her since you changed your views, but it's all good.
Here, I put
Oh,
you
there
on
you
my
are.
TV screen, so now I can sit back in my chair. I've been running around all day, so I was work out.
That's good. So I can see that Jen is recording this, which is super awesome.
Yes, because I know that always there's people who can't hop on live, and that way if people come in late, they can always catch up or what have you.
Awesome. And I was a little bit late last night sharing it into Jerry's group, and I know he's got some people that are interested. So having the ability to share the aftermath with him would be great.
Right?
Okay, so I want to honor Jen's time because I know she's super lady. For those of you who have not met Jen in studio, she came in a couple of times last year and did some coaching sessions with us as well. I met Jen through the chamber, I think maybe initially, or through networking. We tend to network in the same circles, and currently we belong to a networking group together called Network in Action. Jen is an international best-selling author, a transformational coach. She works a lot with business owners, but also individuals. She's got a magnificent coaching team that also includes her husband, David, who coaches more in the technical side. Like his realm of coaching is really professionals like Jason, engineers and things like that, in a little bit of a different aspect. I asked Jen if she would join us today to kind of help us understand how we can set some healthy boundaries for ourselves, to honor our own self-care, but at the same time still supporting the people around us. And without really talking to Jen in advance, I'm assuming that that some of this content, if not all of it, is kind of based on her book that she wrote that you can get on Amazon. And I highly recommend purchasing that book and reading it. It's really fantastic. So without any further ado, I am going to mute myself and turn everything over to Jen and let her take it away. Welcome, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone else on the call, and that is so that you can cut down on some of the background noise. I'm going to go through this. I'm a very interactive speaker, so when I ask questions, I really am going to give you space to kind of think about the answers, because it's going to be very, very important moving through the content. When Jackie asked me to do this, it's a tremendous opportunity, because right now we have all experienced change in our life. Whether we were working outside of the home or we're used to going to the gym or anything, all of us, every single person on this call has had some sort of disruption to what we have experienced as normal over the last few years. And what happens is that change, by nature of the beast, elevates our stress. And when we are stressed out, we either don't honor our boundaries, or we really set hard limits on things, because we get to the point where we're so stressed out, then we just shut down. And so the timing of this is actually really amazing. We have the ability to exercise this during a time of stress, which all of you are working with Jackie. So you know that habits, they have to be stacked one on top of the other, and it takes time for habits to form. But right now, if we form these healthy habits, we can lower our stress levels, we can improve our perspective and how we react in life and how we show up. And on the other side of this, when we are no longer staying safe in our homes, we get to choose what our life looks like and how we want to show up in the world moving forward, whether it's we want to honor certain priorities more. And so this is actually kind of a gift. I'm excited to be able to deliver this to my own local community, because I have shared this topic internationally. I've been on 4 continents. I've been in 40 states with this. And so it's really exciting to be able to give this to you, because you guys you're my home and my family, because this is my community. So thank you for having me. We're going to start with honoring healthy boundaries, the art of saying no to improve your quality of life. And I'm going to pop up my contact information right now, and this is for your reference. Jackie has all my contact information, but what I want to offer to each person on this call, and even if you're catching the replay, one of the gifts that I'm giving to my community is if anyone needs help in this area, I'm giving a free 30-minute coaching call to anyone who needs it in the area, just as a service to our community, because stress is high, boundaries are important. There's a lot of transitions, and that's my gift to my local people. So if you are in the area and you are on this call, that is a gift from me to you. If you want to use it, it's up to you, but you can reach out to me. Here's my information. And otherwise, get with Jackie. You got here through Jackie. She has my information as well, whether for yourself or for someone in your family who might need just to have a 30-minute call with someone who can have an outlook or a perspective that's a little different. So that's why I do what I do. Let's get right into the nitty gritty. I'm going to start, before I dive into anything else, with a quote. The secret to change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. That is a quote by Socrates. It is the first page of my book, and it applies to every change we try to enact in life, whether it's fitness with Jackie, nutrition, health, setting boundaries. If we focus on what it is we're going to build, we're going to be so much more successful. Very wise words across the years. So we intrinsically know this, but why don't we set and honor boundaries? There are a whole lot of lies that we tell ourselves as people. We have been societally conditioned to be yes people. So when somebody invites us, for example, to this webinar, we have a fear of missing out. What if I miss out on something that's going to change my life? We get invited to a social event and we worry about, well, if I miss out on something, what if I don't get invited again? We have fear of rejection. And so because we don't like to hear no, sometime at a very early age, no became a rejection to many of us in our society. We don't like to say no to other people because we don't want to hurt their feelings. And if this is you, I get it. This is me. My story was I was in sports medicine for 20 years and I gave and I gave and I showed up for my clients and my patients and my fellow coworkers. I ran a practice, all my staff members. I worked 70, 80 hours a week. And ultimately, I went on vacation with my husband after many years of not going on vacation, and he asked me for a divorce. It was a gut punch. I didn't see it coming. And it was about the fact that I didn't say no to anybody other than my husband, my family. I always put myself and my priorities on the back burner. So this was not too long ago. I'm talking 2016, this happened. And so I searched on Google, what am I going to do about this? And I hired a coach. The reason that I'm a coach and the reason that I have a book on boundaries and the reason that I've done so much research in this area is because it was my story. And I knew that if I didn't do something and I didn't start saying no to other people who weren't in my top priorities, I was going to lose my marriage. I was losing relationships. I was losing my health. And so that was my story. And it really has brought me to the point where I'm giving this to the world because it was so impactful for me. And it's been so impactful for hundreds of people who I've worked with at this point in time. So that fear of rejection, it goes two ways. We don't want to say no because we don't want to feel guilty about not helping someone. But if we're not filling our cup and we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not moving our body, fueling our body, all the things you work with Jackie, she's a critical piece in that. If we're not taking care of ourselves, then one day we crack. Our health might go down and we can't show up. We don't show up the best for our families. Maybe right now you're really stressed out. And when something happens, you keep saying yes because you're afraid you might lose your job because it's scary out there. But if we don't set the boundaries and we don't say no to some things and honor our priorities now, then what are we setting up for ourselves later? So the fear of rejection, the fear of missing out, the guilt, and then there's the big lies that we tell ourselves. We don't set boundaries because we say, I don't have time to make a healthy meal or to get my workout in, or I don't have the money to continue with one-on-one coaching, for example. I'm giving y'all real-time examples because this is hitting me every single day with this COVID situation. People are afraid. People are losing their jobs. And so the first thing we do when we are in a stressful situation is we start to cut back and hold back and act out of fear. So I don't have money to invest in my health. Another lie we tell ourselves is, if I don't take this time, or if I take this time or money for me, someone else might not have enough. This is a real, deeply conditioned thought and belief that we hold in our society. It stems from things that we learn in a very early age, be it in our communities, be it in our school. Oh, if you don't do this, if you take too much time in the bathroom, little Johnny won't get their time during bathroom break. Like, those kind of things happen in schools and in our households when we're young children. And so we take that to mean it applies to everything. If I take this money for me, someone else may not have enough. For example, if I spend money today on coaching with Jackie, I might not be able to give that money to my daughter who's out of work so that she can do something for my grandson. Either or. Another one looks like, if I don't work overtime and do all the things, then something bad will happen. Oh my goodness. I wrote this slide 3 years ago, and this is really, really hitting everybody right now with COVID. Everybody's feeling the need to work 60, 70, 80 hours, hoping they'll hang on to this little bit of income, or they might lose their job and lose everything they have. So that catastrophic fear. And finally, this is the big kicker. It's selfish to take care of myself. It's selfish for me to honor my priorities, because then I'm not thinking about everyone else. And I see that on this call, at least, it's predominantly women. This is a real thing that all women that I have ever encountered, this thought goes through our head, because we're nurturers. We're used to doing all the things. Okay, maybe we own a business, or we work outside of the home, and we take care of the kids and take care of the grandkids and take care of our spouses and handle the household and make all the meals and do all the things. And so when it comes time to take a bubble bath, we're like, I don't have time for that. It's selfish if I take a bubble bath, because what if my kids need me in those 3 minutes? Like, these are things that as women in this society, we are trained to put ourselves on the back burner. But the reality is, when we start to honor our priorities and to take that self-care time for us, then we have more energy, we have improved health, we have an improved positive outlook, and that impacts everyone around us, our spouses, our families, our friends, and everyone we come into contact to. So those are the reasons we don't tend to set boundaries. And so what happens to us? What happens when we don't set boundaries? So here we are thinking it's selfish if we take care of ourselves, if we set the boundaries, we're saying yes to everybody because we're feeling guilty if we say no. And we become known as the yes man or the yes woman. We're like a doormat. We feel like people take advantage of us. Well, that's because we've let them. We've never told anybody no, so of course they keep pushing. You ever heard the phrase, if you give an inch, they take a mile? Like, that's this completely. What's happening is we're putting everyone else's wants and needs above our own, and we're sacrificing our health, our fulfillment, our happiness. We're feeling overwhelmed because we've got 50 million things that we're responsible for. We've bitten off more than we can chew, and then we stop dropping the ball. Yes, Mom, I'll come over and fix your light bulb. 3 days later, Jen, you never fixed my light bulb. And then I feel bad because I didn't show up, right? These are the kind of things that happen because we say yes to all the things, and then sometimes we forget. It might look like we're working overtime, or we have really poor work-life balance. In healthcare, this is particularly a challenge, but also anybody in a nurturing type field, because we are there in service and we get called to medicine, or like what Jackie does, any of the things that we're called to do that because we want to help people. And so we feel that guilt that we were talking about earlier when we say no, or we draw that boundary. And as a result, we basically have no time for what really matters to us. We don't have time for what brings us joy and satisfaction. And we even don't have enough time to get our essential rule requirements done. Like, I need to make dinner, and all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock at night because I forgot all about dinner. I was doing all the other things. It's not a pretty picture. And even worse is what it feels like. So we know that we're not setting a boundary if you've ever sat in a get together or attended some event and you're sitting there thinking, man, I wish I had said no to this. I could be 10 other places. I can think of 15 other things I'd rather be doing than this. Then you didn't say no when you needed to. That's a clear indication. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's usually, that's the biggest sign that you're not setting effective boundaries. Resentment. So this is one I really want to dive into, because with COVID, we're all stressed out. We're stuck in a house, some of us with our spouses who we're used to not even living with half of the time because we both travel, or whatever it is. We're working out of home, we're doing all the things. Maybe we're homeschooling our children or our grandchildren. Maybe we have other things going on and we don't have an escape. Everything that we love to do is closed. We can't go to Jackie's gym right now and blow off some steam. We're working out in the house, which is really hard to motivate ourselves to do sometimes. And so what happens is this resentment builds up. And we start to think things, and if you feel me, throw some hands up and show it to me. Anybody sitting at home wondering why their husband just hasn't stepped up to the plate and made dinner tonight? Because after all, for an entire month, we've been doing this, doing all the things, working out of home, trying to keep the ship afloat, and I'm still the one cooking all the meals? Or maybe yes, raise your hands. Like, that happens. Sorry guys, it's a routine. And I'm gonna be completely forthcoming. My husband David has been stepping up and he has been helping. But there are times when I'm like, well, why can't he just do this? Why does he have to waste 5 minutes to come tell me that I need to go fix something when he could have already done it himself, right? So that's a resentment thought. And this is a place to set a boundary, to say, hey, look, we're both living here. We both can share this equally. On Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to cook dinner. On Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you're going to cook dinner. On Sunday, we're going to order out. Like, that is what it looks like to set a boundary and say, listen, I'm not doing this on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Sorry, it's your turn. Like, we have to establish the ground rules. Ground rules might sound harsh, but setting the boundary is setting the container about what we can do realistically and what feels right and what feels like a fair and equitable arrangement, so that we can keep our sanity. And on that Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, when you're not making dinner, that's self-care time. Go take a bubble bath. Go take a walk around the block. Do something for you, not for the kids, not for anybody else, but for you. So the resentment and the anger that comes. Other things that might be a good indication that we're not setting boundaries. We're really fatigued, or we feel like we're stuck in a rut. Like, the routine happens because we get comfortable and complacent, and it's easier to just say yes to keep everybody happy because we don't want the conflict than to make a change. But as a result, we feel like we're just going through the motions. We don't feel inspired. We don't feel like we're doing the things that light our soul on fire, and we're just stuck in a rut. And the result is, and Jackie, you've probably said this a gazillion times, when we don't set our boundaries, we don't mitigate our stress, we don't take care of ourselves, then our immune system starts to go down. We have more frequent colds, illness. Allergy season seems to be exceptionally hard this year, whether or not that's true. We have a lack of energy, we're fatigued, we start having a lack of motivation. So all of these feelings are generally a great indicator, because feelings are feedback. Whatever we're feeling is okay. We can't turn our feelings off, but what we can do is say, wow, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel resentment that my husband's not taking the initiative to make dinner tonight? He's been sitting on the couch for 4 hours and I've been working. Like, it's a clear indication that we look into that and say, okay, something needs to change. And why do we do this? I know y'all have all seen this. If anybody's never been in an airplane, here you go. They always tell you when you board the plane, if something were to happen and the pressure would go out of the cabin or whatever. And whenever they say this, my immediate thought is, if these things are coming down, then I'm going to be saying my prayers, because it means stuff's about to get really bad. But they always tell you, place the oxygen mask on yourself first before helping small children or others who need your assistance. This is because if we do not have a full cup, if we are not taking care of ourselves and we're not healthy and we're not honoring our priorities and our boundaries, we cannot continue to serve. We cannot continue to take care of everybody else, because we're the ones who break down. And then we're in the opposite role, needing someone to take care of us. So always place the oxygen mask on yourself first. So that's great, Jen. What do I need to do about it? The beautiful news is, it really is a 4-step process. And I have a handout that I have sent to Jackie. I don't know if she had the time to send it out to you. If not, you guys can let me know. I'm happy to send it to you. And it goes into everything we're about to do. But the very first, most important thing to do is to know your priorities. So what I want you to do, if you have a piece of paper and a pen, fantastic. If you don't, just think about it. I want you to think about what are the top 3 to 5 priorities in your life right now. And it could be anything. There are no wrong answers. It might be money, job, blah, blah. It might be family, friends, spouse. It could be whatever it is. It might be your health. What are your top 3 to 5 priorities? So once you know your top priorities, then everything else is a matter of balancing those priorities, setting up non-negotiable time for you to meet those priorities. So for example, if quality time is your love language and you need to spend quality time with your spouse and quality time with your children for you to feel fulfilled, then you put that in your calendar first, if that is your number 1 priority. Does this make sense? This is about scheduling non-negotiable appointments to yourself. If your health is your top priority, scheduling your workouts with Jackie, scheduling when you're going to do meal prep so that you can fuel your body, ensuring that you have your sleep schedule on point, having that in as a non-negotiable and managing your time there, that's going to be key to moving forward. So it's knowing your priorities, balancing those priorities, and scheduling them as non-negotiables in your calendar before you do anything else. And then learning the art of saying no. And yes, no is a 1-word complete sentence. And sometimes it's a screamed no. Sometimes it's got an expletive with it. That's okay. But a lot of times saying no has an art to it. We can say no and have it be a relationship builder and have it give value and be from love and service rather than it feel like a rejection. And we're going to go over that today. So we've already done the prioritization, listing your top 5 priorities in life. So this is your homework. I'm happy to have Jackie send out your homework. She can even have a copy of my slide deck. I'm fine with that. I will send that to her, and she has the handout. The handout actually has the list your priorities and circle what you don't want. So this process is in the handout if you're not able to do it right now. But you look at your priorities and then you look at your calendar. And I suggest you do this for 1 week at a time. So we're going to look at your calendar for the next 7 days. And every activity that's aligned with your top 3 to 5 priorities, you're going to circle them. Those you're going to keep. And what I like to do is have like my priorities numbered. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I list, like, for example, my top priorities are my family, my spouse, my family. So my daughter and grandson and extended family, my friends, my health, and service, giving back. My business is not even in my top 5, guys. Like that's just who I am. So I look at that and I make sure that each of those 5 is in there. And then everything that I do, like if I'm on Easter Sunday, I saw my daughter and my grandson and my husband, and we took my grandson fishing because my daughter is pregnant and on bed rest. So he's not really getting out of the house unless Diddy and I go take him. So we went and we saw Alexis and Jude. We had quality time with both of them. I had quality time with my husband. So I was meeting a couple of priorities, my family and my spouse priorities. I was also meeting the health priority because I was getting vitamin fresh air, exercise because we walked to the pond, went fishing, and then walked back. So it was meeting 3 of my priorities. So that particular appointment in my calendar had 3 numbers next to it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, your top priorities, look at everything in your calendar. Which of the priorities does it meet? This is going to help later with your balancing. Then all the activities in your calendar that don't meet your top 5 priorities. And the homework for you today is to cancel one, just one of those activities that does not align with your top 5 priorities in life. Just one. We're going to start with one. Remember we talked about habit stacking and how it happens in small doses? Saying no is really hard. We're going to say no when you look at your calendar, the one thing that is the easiest for you to say no to, the easiest thing for you to cancel, start with that one. And here's the kicker. In that space, that beautiful white space in your calendar that now has been freed up because you canceled something, that is for you. It's not for you to put in time with somebody else unless that's what you need. Like if you haven't seen your spouse for anything fun in the last 4 weeks, all you've been doing is being at your throats, and you feel like that part of your life needs nourishing, then you schedule a date in that time because you need that. If you have not had 2 minutes of peace and quiet because your spouse is in your ear every minute and your kids or grandkids are in your ear every minute and you're doing all the things, then that's space for you to have a moment of reflection. And you don't put anything there. Maybe you just go outside and you take a few deep breaths of fresh air. So whatever needs to be nourished in you to fill your cup, to make you feel energized, that's what's allowed to be put in that new space, even if that means taking a nap. Does this make sense to everybody? Okay, so hands up. Who can do this? Who says this can be, this is doable? I can cancel one thing, say no to one thing, and put something in its place that I'm gonna love. Awesome. So that becomes a non-negotiable space. And now what you're gonna do to build on that is next week you're gonna cancel another thing. But it's two-sided. If we always only look reactively at our schedule and we never start a proactive approach, then we're gonna constantly be in this loop. So the next step, once we've got that canceled, is to look at the blank canvas. What an amazing opportunity. We are in a COVID crisis. Our life is disrupted. We have a blank canvas that we can really dive into this later because this is a lot of information. And usually it takes time for this to sink in, and I get that. You'll have time for this. You'll have a handout that you can give yourself some space, but reflect on what is it that you want to leave behind? What are you not doing right now because of this disruption? And you're actually okay if that stays gone. What an amazing opportunity to not let that come back when they say, okay, everybody, you can go out again. And it could be anything. It could be, man, you know, that one friend who really just sucks your energy every time, but you have an ongoing coffee date with that friend. Maybe it's okay for you to love that friend from a distance and not go have coffee once a week once this lifts. That's okay. This is an opportunity to shed anything that's been toxic or anything that has felt like an obligation and not let it come back. We'll leave that in the pre-COVID, because post-COVID, we are going to be honoring our priorities and moving forward. We're going to set boundaries. It allows us to close the gaps. So when you're reflecting and you're thinking about the things that, like that friend at the coffee house that just is an energy vampire that we're not going to bring back, wow, that gives you some empty space. And what will you do with that space? It might be that that space is going to remain space and it's going to be for you. And it might be that, you know, I've always wanted to give back more in my community. I'm going to volunteer for Meals on Wheels or something along those lines. Closing the gaps in your priorities means what priorities have been on the back burner? Has it been your health? Has it been quality time with your spouse? Has it been I haven't been on a date with my spouse in 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years? Has it been that we haven't been on vacation and it's really impacting us now that we're having to live together 24/7 and can't escape? Like, what are the gaps in your priorities and what needs to happen? And it's a beautiful time to establish the new habits. So I'm going to give you another one of my favorite quotes, and it's, your capacity to say no determines your capacity to say yes to greater things. So here you go. What do you want your days, your weeks, and your months to look like moving forward? Our blank canvas is there for us. It gives us an amazing opportunity to say, okay, what's important to me? I want to see my grandson every single week. I did this for years, and then I traveled all over the world the last 18 months. And the reality is I didn't get to see him every week. So moving forward, what I'm leaving in the past is not getting to see my grandson every week because he's important to me. And he's not going to be little for long. So my travel is going to look like I'm only willing to travel for work on these days because my Fridays are going to be for Jude. Period. End of story. at least until the school year starts next school year. And then I'll have Saturdays for him because that's my priority. So what does your priority look like? What do you want your days, weeks, and months to look like? And the reflection that you have right now in any of the empty spaces, because COVID's given us some of that, instead of Netflix and chilling, maybe you take some time to learn what it is you really want to be doing with that time. And here's where the art of saying no comes in. So it's really simple. It's a formula. Feel free to screenshot it, write it down, whatever. Like I said, Jackie, I'll give you my slide deck and you can hand this out. The formula is thank you. No matter what anybody asks you to do, if they're asking for your help, if they're inviting you to something, thank you. Gratitude. You guys have heard it before. I know Jackie preaches it. I preach it too. The power of positivity and gratitude is huge because it takes a negative mind to a positive mind. Negativity and positivity cannot coexist in the same space. So the way that we keep a no from immediately feeling like a rejection is we thank the person for asking for our help, or thank whoever's inviting us to something we don't want to go to. Thank them for the invitation, for thinking of us. So thank you. Then validation. Every human being on earth has a need to be heard. Everybody has that need to be heard. We need to be witnessed. And so when somebody invites you to something, or when somebody asks for your help, validating that they have a real need, even if it's somebody who can do something darn well on their own and they're just being lazy in your mind. Thank you. I hear that you need help changing your light bulb, Mom. Establish the boundary. So here's where it gets a little tricky for some people. Some people are a lot easier to say no to than others, right? Who's the hardest? Is it family? Is it spouse? Is it friends? Who do we say no to the most? Ourselves? So this is where we decide that when we need to step back and start practicing no, anytime somebody invites you to do something or asks you for help, you immediately press pause. If they need a yes or no answer right there and then, the answer is automatically no. And here's your formula for pressing pause. Say Jackie invites me to come do this workshop tomorrow. I know I can't do it. I don't want to hurt Jackie's feelings. I've never told Jackie no before. Like, this is totally made up, but anyway. So, I don't want to hurt her feelings. And I say, Jackie, you know what? Thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy that you thought of me. I hear that you need help in this area. Unfortunately, I can't give you an answer. I have to check my calendar. And you leave the situation, because what that does is it gives you spaciousness and you're no longer in the emotion of the conversation, whether she called me up or we're FaceTiming or we're in person and she asked me to do something. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to check and make sure I don't have any other obligations. I'm going to have to check with my husband. Whatever it is, give yourself a pause button so that you can be spaciously removed and ask yourself this question. Number one, does this meet my top 5 priorities? Yes, no. If yes, then is that priority adequately served in my schedule? If the priority is service and you're in service, 20 hours of every day, then you don't need to add more service. So that's where the balance comes in, right? Balancing your priorities. So do I have enough of that right now in my schedule? Yes, no. And if no, the next question is, am I inspired to do this? Am I inspired, or do I feel obligated? Because when you ask yourself that question, you get a pretty clear answer. And if you're not clear on what inspired versus obligated is that's that event that you go to and you really wish you had not gone, but you just kind of said yes because you were guilted into it, and you could think of 10,000 other things you would rather be doing than being at that event. Understand? That's obligation. Inspiration is, holy crap, I'm super excited to be here. Kind of like when Jackie asked me to do this. Yes, of course, I get to serve my community in my favorite topic. This is what I've dedicated my life to doing, is helping people, business owners, individuals, learn how to say no, set boundaries so that they can actually love their life, because I believe each one of us deserves that. I believe each of us has a right to love our life, and that we should be able to show up 100% in all our gifts, and give what we want to the world. So, you know, it was an easy yes when Jackie asked me to do this because it's service. It's my community, which is important to me. It's my favorite topic, and it's my deeper why, my purpose right now. It's what fuels me. So I am inspired to do it. So then I call Jackie back and I say, Jackie, yes, I'll do this. If any of those was a no, then I call Jackie back and I say, thank you again. Thank you for thinking of me. I know you really needed somebody to deliver this content. Unfortunately, I have a conflict. Have you considered, here's the add value part, have you considered and give another resource? Have you considered asking, I don't know, pick somebody. I'm going to say Mark Morrison because he popped to my mind for whatever reason. Have you considered asking Mark Morrison, who's another coach in our area? I don't know if you guys know him. You know, but give another idea. What you're doing now is adding value to the person so they don't leave feeling like you rejected them. You leave feeling, wow, she cared enough to come up with a different solution for me. Even if it's the wrong solution or not the solution I want, that person cared enough to come up with another solution. So thank you. Validation. I hear you need this. I understand you want me to come to your birthday party. Unfortunately, I don't go to smoky bars. Have you considered asking, you know, so-and-so, they love going country dancing, whatever it is, but add a value. And if you don't know somebody else to consider asking, you can offer a resource. Hey, Mom, I really love you. I thank you for asking me. Unfortunately, I don't have an hour and a half to drive up to Huntsville right now to change your light bulb. Here's a number for a handyman who's working in your area. Super simple, adding value. And the adding value can be something as simple as, thank you for thinking of me. Please invite me next time. So those of us who have a FOMO going on, thank you for thinking of me. Unfortunately, I have a conflict, but please keep me in mind the next time you have a party or the next time you need somebody to come speak for you. So has everybody got the formula down? Works in a lot of different places. Anybody want a fun example? Who's ever had someone call, could be a family member or not, and you know you don't want to answer the phone call because it's always a 15, 30, 5-hour conversation. Anybody experience that? Y'all want to know how to say no in this way, in that circumstance? So it looks like this. Mom's calling. Oh, this is going to be a long one. I only have literally 10 minutes. So you answer the phone. Hi, Mom. I'm so excited to see you. Listen, before we get started, I only have 5 minutes. So let's go ahead and have a conversation. And at 4 minutes, I'm going to remind you that I have to get off the phone. Simply by pre-framing that phone call, when 4 minutes in, Mom's still off in La La Land or wherever else she is, you say, hey, Mom, remember I told you I only had 5 minutes right now? Let's schedule a next time when we can connect. Let's schedule dinner. Let's have a phone call at this time, and you give another option. It works with clients too. We have that with clients. All of us have dealt with this in some area. We can do this in person as well. If you're scheduled to have a lunch with your friends and you know that it usually turns into a half-day ordeal and you just don't have the energy for that, you come to that table and you say, listen, guys, I'm here to eat and I would love to spend all afternoon chatting with you, but I have something that I need to get to in an hour. So I'm going to leave in an hour. Just so that you know. And then right beforehand, you start to say your goodbyes and say, listen, remember I told you that I had an hour and I have something else to do? It's about pre-framing because that manages the expectations. And then you're able to be fully present for that hour. You're not thinking about all the things you need to do because you already know that you set the boundary and you're going to honor the boundary, if that makes sense. So here's my third favorite quote. Focus is about saying no. Steve Jobs said that. And it applies to so many things. And I like to add to it that saying no is actually saying yes to something that's more important to each and every one of us. Saying no is saying yes to you. And for anyone who is having that little, oh, but that's selfish thing go in your mind, remember we addressed this. It's actually selfish for you to say yes to everybody else because what happens is your health suffers. You don't show up 100%. You have anger, resentment, anxiety, instead of showing up excited and inspired and ready to go. So you're not bringing your best to the situation. So saying no is really about saying yes to showing up 100% present all day, every day, and saying yes to what inspires you. Hopefully this was valuable. I'm going to stop sharing my content now. Remember what our action steps were, because me talking about this is completely pointless if you don't actually take action. So we were going to establish our top 3 to 5 priorities. We were going to look at our calendar and cancel one thing, just one, the easiest no. We're going to cancel one thing that doesn't work for us right now and isn't in alignment with our priorities. And that space is for us to fill in something, to nourish a part of ourselves that we need nourishing. Whether it's taking a bubble bath, taking a nap, going for a walk, having a date with our spouse, whatever needs nourishing, that's the only thing allowed to go in there. And moving forward, we have the formula for saying no. And before I open up for questions, the best thing that you can do in reflection, moving out of this, is to brainstorm what is going to get in my way. What are the stories, the big lies that we talked about in the beginning? What are the stories that I always tell myself? Oh, wow, I'm going to miss out. Like, is it fear of missing out? Oh, I'm going to feel guilty. Oh, it's selfish if I take care of myself. What is the story that you tend to tell yourself? And the next time you tell yourself that story, what are you going to replace it with? Because when you're not in the instance where you're having to say no, or you're having to draw a boundary, or you're having to enforce a boundary, the best time to learn how to stick to your guns and actually start making this a pattern and a habit is to know what you're going to answer yourself with when that mean girl in your head says, oh, it's selfish if you do that. Brainstorm it when you have nobody in front of you, the thing that you know gets in your way, and what you would like to do to overcome that. And if you have challenges with that, or you need more support or accountability, that's what I do for a living. That's what a coach is for. The accountability is huge. If you guys have been to my workshops before, you know I like to pair people up, and all of you are in Jackie's tribe. So I would like you guys to maybe mix it up. 2 and 2. I don't know. I see Vicky, Jackie, Rose, and Jill. Rose and Jill, y'all are next to each other. Do y'all know each other enough to chat or phone call or text one another to see how you're doing? Hold on, I'll unmute you. Do y'all know each other enough to check in and be accountability buddies with this?
I don't know Rose.
Yeah, we don't know each other.
Yeah,
they
I haven't
treat it
gone to the
different
same
times.
classes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So do you guys know Vicky? Either of y'all know Vicky?
Yes.
Yes.
Everybody
Okay.
knows Vicky.
Yes.
Okay, so one of you guys pair up. Why don't Rose, you pair up with Vicky, and Jill, you pair up with Jackie. Do y'all know each other?
Yes.
Perfect. So you're accountability buddies. And I know you're familiar with this because you work out with Jackie. And when we have somebody else other than ourselves to report into, we actually have a little bit better support. We have a 63% more chance of making this a habit. If you work with a coach, you have a 98% chance of making this a habit. That's science. And I'm sure Jackie has given you those numbers before. I'm also a coach. I'm a life coach. It's a different kind of coach, but yeah, those numbers don't lie. That's a tremendous body of research. So Rose, you and Vicky touch base. And the way I like to work accountability is once a day, touch base. Did you cancel your appointment? Yes, no. The next day, if that answer was no, did you cancel that one appointment? Yes, no. When that answer is yes, great. Did you say no to something today? And just touch in. It could be a text message or a phone call. Touch base every day. I like people to hold people accountable for 21 days because it could take that long for it to start to sink in for some of us, actually even longer. But for the first week, touch in every day, and then touch in once a week for the next couple of weeks. How are you doing with saying no? How are you doing with setting boundaries? And take it one step at a time. So you guys have an amazing process. You're going to brainstorm how to set yourself for inevitable success. You've got accountability. You've got a process. As Jackie mentioned, I have a book that goes into detail with this. I also have a course that goes really in depth with this as well. And I'm happy to have a 30-minute conversation with anybody if you need a little bit of one-on-one support. So, questions?
No, you gave me a lot to think about.
Mhm.
A lot to think about, Rose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just kind of for my benefit, Rose, I want to ask you from the presentation, like when you saw the title of the presentation today, what was the driver to bring you into this? Like from knowing what's going on in your world, you know, what did you hope to come away with by participating?
I guess mainly how to cope with this situation that is all unique to us. I mean, never before we experienced this long term, and just about more information about how to deal with it every day.
Okay. So do you feel like you got some things out of this that you can apply to this situation right now?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely like the part about getting rid of something toxin and trading it for something positive.
Beautiful. Jill, how about for you?
Yeah, I think I just it's just, you know, my husband and me, but it was on Friday where it just kind of got to me about because I was thinking about my mom being, you know, so secluded, she can't have any visitors, and of course I wouldn't be there because I'm so far away, but yet you know, thinking about, well, I've made reservations for the end of July, but am I going to be able to go? Or if I go, are they still going to be locked down? And so just thinking about all that stuff, and then not being able to, like, I went out to get something, and I went by Barnes and Noble, and I was like, I can't go in there, you know, and I like to go in there and just, you know, wander around and look at things, go back and look at the books, and I think, well, why couldn't we be in there? That it's never crowded. I don't ever have anybody within 6 feet of me in there. And so and I was just irritated about everything. And I snapped at Robert a few times when he didn't do anything. And I was texting my sister and about it. And so it just all kind of, you know, but I just prayed about it and, you know, said, hey, we're in this, I can't change it, so just get a grip.
You
and
know,
I have been better, it's been better, you know, since then.
so, you know, all of us are going through this. And
Mhm.
this is another topic that I've been speaking to tremendously is the stress of being pretty much, we're on house arrest, right?
Yeah,
We're all on
yeah.
house arrest. And one of the simplest things to do when you feel like everything is out of control, because that's really what was happening.
Mhm.
That inner 3-year-old was going, no,
Yeah.
I want to go and see the books. I want to do this, right? When we get told we can't do something, then our inner child rebels, like
Mhm.
in a big way.
Yeah.
And we generally lash out to the people we care the most. So the boundaries
Mhm.
it's a boundary with ourselves, and it's also a boundary with our spouse, because as you realize, living with your husband, I'm in the same situation. It's my husband and myself. And what's happening is all of our stresses, we subtly take out almost passive aggressively, or really it's not, because we don't even realize we're taking it out on one another, but there is no one else present. So when I'm stressed out, he feels it. When he's stressed out, he feels it, and it escalates over time. And the most amazing thing we can do when we feel that way is to take that spacious breath, go outside, and think about what are the things that I get to do. Not the things that I can't do. What are the things that I get to do?
Yeah.
And if you can't get there right then and there, setting a timer for a minute and writing out everything you're grateful for, like, holy crap, I've got a roof over my head. I've got toilet paper, you know, like what are the things that we're grateful for? And then shift at what are the things that I get to do? Because our routines in our lives are disrupted. But when we start to establish a normal routine in this new normal that we're stuck in, the human body loves routine. No matter how much we tell ourselves we don't, we like to float with the wind and we don't want to follow a schedule. Our bodies crave routine. We get to choose our routine right now. So start thinking about the things that you really love and you haven't incorporated in a while. Maybe you haven't read a book in a while and you're looking at, I can't go to Barnes and Nobles, but I have books at home. you know? So, or you can still Amazon Prime is delivering next day for me. So what are the things that you get to do? I've always wanted to learn the violin. I'm going to get a violin, like whatever it is. And focus on the things you get to do and start to incorporate those into your day, because that way you're no longer, I want to say, irritating or poking the bear of that little inner child who wants to rebel because we're being told to stay at home. It's making, it's making lemonade basically out of what we've got. And as a result, when you do that and you set the boundaries and you say, I'm going to remove myself from the situation and I'm going to assess what I can control and what I get to do in this, then what happens is your husband starts to see that all of a sudden your stress isn't here, it's down here. And it gives him permission to do the same thing, because the unwritten rule is when we're tit for tat, even if we don't realize it and our stress is elevating, we're escalating the situation. And when one of us takes control and sets a boundary and does something for ourselves and take care of ourselves, it gives the other person permission to do the same. And so the real beauty behind this is when we take control of our lives and we decide what we get to do and do it, it gives everyone else permission to do the same. And everybody's stress levels start to come down. And then it becomes less of a real stressful, anxiety-ridden situation. Because the reality is there is uncertainty. We don't know how long. We don't know what. We don't know all the things. And I understand what your parents, I totally understand. But the reality is that if you get to do that, what an amazing gift it's going to be. And how are you going to show up when you do get to see your mom?
Yeah.
You know, like that's what happens when we take control.
Yeah.
Hey, Vicki, how about for you? Because your situation's a little bit different in that, you're homeschooling kids and still training. And so for you, was this helpful for you?
Yes. I've learned how to say no. I learned that a few years ago. I have definitely learned how to say no, but it took a while of realizing everything is not my responsibility. Like, it's not always my job to make people happy. It's not always my job to fix everything, because I realized I just had enough stuff to deal with on my own and in my own life. So especially when I took in my nephew a few years ago, and that's when I really learned to say no. I have 4 kids. I had a 1-year-old all of a sudden, just kind of literally overnight. I had a 1-year-old, so I had to redo life. So I learned how to say no then. But I am thinking about some clients that I have who have, that made 4 kids in my family, but one of them was older. She was in high school, very self-sufficient, and then it was a 1-year-old, 4-year-old, and 7-year-old, I guess. So 7-year-old is kind of self-sufficient too. But I'm thinking about my friends who have 5 and 6 children, and either like the one with all boys, and that I don't know how to deal with 5 boys that are going crazy all the time, or 6 children, and like a bunch of them are under, 8 years old, I guess. So I was just wondering what Jen's perspective would be on how do you say no to all of those children and not feel guilty? I have an idea of I've taught my children to be independent as soon as possible. My 9-year-old makes eggs. My 11-year-old makes eggs. They're making breakfast. They know how to make their own meals. I was just so thankful when they were all potty trained and I didn't have to go in there all the time. But when you have a bunch of kids, how can I explain to them or help them to say no and not feel guilty about it? That would be my big question I have right now.
That's a fantastic question. And mom guilt is a real thing. But the other side of this, I would just ask them this question. Is the world going to burn down if you take 5 minutes to yourself? And the answer is 9 times out of 10, no. Actually, it's probably 99.999% of the time, no. And then the next question is, how can you empower your children to set boundaries? Because when you set a boundary, you are modeling that for your children. And we want our kids to set boundaries. We live in Houston, which is one of the highest human trafficking cities in the country. Girls, boys, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you want them to learn how to say no in an effective manner. And I hate to go that far into the dark side, but the reality is boundaries go like what you do in one area of life, you do in all. So by saying no and establishing a boundary, establishing a routine for those 6 boys, for example, is going to help them. It's going to help the human in them who needs routine. It's going to help them learn self-sufficiency and independence. It's going to help them learn what's important to them. So free play is amazing. It allows them to use their imagination, and mom doesn't have to be there for free play.
Yeah.
But it's actually a gift by taking some time and letting them be alone a little bit. Yes, they're gonna fall. It's just like babies. Babies, when they take their first, who has ever seen a baby take their first few steps and not fall? Does that ever happen?
It doesn't happen.
No. But what we have decided as moms in today's society is it's not okay for them to fall. Oh my gosh, guess what? We all fell 50 gazillion times. Most of us were raised in a different time when, you know, like a lot worse stuff happened. I was raised
Drank
in a
from
time,
water hoses, Jen.
right? I mean, like I was told, don't come inside, don't come home until the street lights are on. Like,
I like that.
Yeah.
that's literally how we were raised. And we have, as a society, lost that. But I mean, I'm still alive. I ate mud, like we made mud pies and ate dirt,
Right.
for crying out loud. And we didn't die.
I think that in all of this, right, boundaries kind of also encompasses that little circle of control, right? And so I tell people a lot, I have to manage the deep, dark rabbit hole, because it's very easy for me, Jill, and this is specific to kind of how you were dealing with the situation with your mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go, okay, so, you know, we're maybe lucky if we get the approval to open back up on May 3rd, right?
Mm-hmm.
The realistic chance of that happening is probably pretty slim right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if I allow myself to think about, well, oh my God, how am I going to keep showing up for my clients and serving my clients if we can't open up until July, which is what some people are saying, right? I can really get myself going down a dark rabbit hole of no return. I don't have control over that. All I can control is right now. And that lends to mindset and setting, I think, emotional and mindset boundaries about what we can do. So, yeah, I mean, it all kind of ties together. Mindset, boundaries, what you can say no to, what you say yes to, and managing your circle of control.
Well, and I have to, like, I sent her 7 new pair of pants and 5 blouses. And when they get these things now, they're holding them for, I thought it was 24 hours. And my sister is on the executive team with the home, but she's not allowed in either. And she said they made it now 48 to 72 hours. But like, I think it would have been nice maybe if the home would have told the, you know, the relatives of these people. I didn't know that. So now it's been there since last Thursday because I saw the delivery and she still hadn't gotten it, and she needs some of these lightweight things. So I can't, but I've, you know, let it go because I know they're busy. They're short on staff. Office people are even helping deliver meals since they can't eat in the dining room. And so I realize all that. And, you know, I was in corporate life for 40 years, so I know how you can't get to something. But it's like she's looking forward to getting this. And so when I call her today, I just made up my mind. If she doesn't have it, then I know one of the people that work in the office, and I'm just going to send them an email and say, okay, it's been 72 hours. You know, can you check on this and see why it hasn't been delivered to her yet? And just, you know, leave it there and let it go that way, you know, and give them the time that they say they need. But then I also, just being there when we first put her in, you know, sometimes you have to go ask when you're there because they get busy and people forget and things like that. But so, you know, and it's just hard not having any control. And even, you know, whatever, Robert and I will, like, we go out with our cat, just we watch her in the evening. And we have this broomstick that the broom's not on the bottom. It broke a long time ago, but that's what we use if she gets under a car and she won't come to, like, push her out of there. And so we have a little tennis, like a little wiffle ball, like golf wiffle ball. Yeah. So we go out in the street and he hits that he uses that broomstick to hit the wiffle ball, and then I chase it or whatever. People probably think we're absolutely insane because why don't you have like some kind of a game that you can bat a ball back and forth? But no, we have this old broom, and people have asked us, what is that red stick you have? Because it's red. We're like, well, it's really to get Bella out of the bushes or whatever when she doesn't want it listed.
That's hilarious.
But we'll go out, and so it's activity. We're both running around and stuff, and it kind of like, it's usually around 7 in the evening, maybe after we've eaten dinner, and it's just kind of like just a release, So
Good job, Jill. I'm
Yeah.
proud. Creating fun stuff.
yeah.
I want a video of that.
You want a video of it? He'll swing several times, won't hit it, but then he hits it, and he'll say, "Why didn't you catch that?" or whatever, and he'll want me to like bat at it. I'm like, no, because I can't even hit this stupid ball. And he'll pick up when the little nuts come off the trees. He hits those little nuts. I don't know how he does it. I would never hit one, but yeah, like I said, our neighbors probably just think these people are just crazy.
Oh my goodness. I think that's great. Comedic relief and movement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to the control thing, something that happens when we're out of control is we think about the worst case scenario, right? Something that's been very helpful for my clients, and it's something that I practice as well. It's when you're thinking about the worst case scenarios, think about how many times in your life the worst case scenario has actually happened. Has it ever actually happened? Have you ever died? Because that's the absolute worst case scenario, right? You died.
Right.
And did anybody on this call ever die? I'm going to assume not because we're here, right? So we think about the worst case scenario, and then my immediate pattern interrupt is, but did you die? No, I'm not going to die. I'm still going to live, and there's another day, right? And so then you shift to what's the absolute best case scenario? Well, the best case scenario is, in your mom's instance, is you're going to ask the request. It's going to be handled. It's going to exceed your expectations, and everybody's going to be happy, and everything's going to work out peachy keen, right? And then there's a most likely scenario that's somewhere in between, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is the most likely scenario? And if the most likely scenario is something that you can live with, which you're not dead, so you can live with it, right?
Yeah.
Then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Take some sort of an action that's going to get you going, whether it's to send the email, whether it's going to reach out, whether it's to go ahead and, accept that, you know what, we're not going to die right now.
Right.
So life's pretty
That's
good.
I told her the other night. Of course, this has been since the middle of March where they've been locked down, and she's very social, and she is mobile, but she just it wasn't safe for her to be in her home, and we had to make that decision. But she went to the activities. The people in the dining room she ate with were lovely. When I was there, I ate with them. So all of that's gone. Now they're trying to incorporate some things right now, but I'm okay. And then I'll talk to her and she's down. And so the other night I said, Mom, think about it this way. I said, if you were at home right now, I said, you would be very isolated. I said, because my sister, Lori would get you your groceries and things, but your neighbors wouldn't want to come in to see you because they would be afraid maybe they'd bring something in. So, and you have no car. So I said, you would be there by yourself. And I said, I think you would be very, very depressed. I said, there, you get 3 good meals a day. I said, you don't have to worry about finances. We don't have to worry because you're getting very good care. And by the time we got off of it, she felt better. But she's just, but sometimes I think it's, I understand why. And I think about nursing homes all over. They're all locked down, and I get that. But when even family can't go in, it's like you need that with your family and on Zoom. But my mom she has a flip phone, I can just call her. I can't even send her pictures or anything. So that's what's hard. But yet if my sister can she'll send to one of the nurses a video, like she has a new 2.5-month-old grandbaby, and that nurse will take it in and show it to my mom. So we are able to do that. But, I just think, if they could even just list it, because my sister would go and take her out for lunch and, and out. And so nobody can, she's not allowed to go out either. So, it's just, but I just try to, and all the residents are, the ones that I met, they're, they get down because they can't see the people that always came in to see them. And so I just try to say, Mom, if one person would come in there that had that, it could spread through there so fast. And so there's a reason. And I say, she says, pray for me. I said, I do. And she checks every day. I call her around 7, 8 o'clock her time. So we check in every day, and some days she's real, they had an Easter egg hunt for those old people the other day. And my sister sent me the pictures. So, it's, I'm doing okay with it.
You're doing what you can, Jill.
I'm doing what I can. Yeah.
That's
and
good.
she understands that. So,
So Jackie, just as an aside, I have someone who has a very, he's recently moved to our area, and he's a financial advisor, but he does a lot with people who are having family members, caregivers who are in that circumstance during COVID. He's been offering resources that he has accessible to him, particularly ones that have a touch of dementia or whatever, but anybody who's isolated like what your mom is and you're the caregiver, he's got some resources for people. So I would love to connect you or send you his information if it might be something that could help Jill. His name is Joe. I'm gonna just email you his information if you want to give him as a resource. He's an amazing gentleman. He relocated here from St. Louis 6 weeks ago, but he's helped a couple of my clients who are in the same situation where they're not able to visit their family members or what have you. And it might, I don't know if it would be helpful or not, but if he's got something that you guys haven't considered, it might be worth a conversation.
Great, Jen. I've got somebody else in that same situation, so please send that for me, and then I'll.
Yeah, I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to send it to the Jackie at EFW.
Yep.
Yep. I've sent you already the slide deck, so you should have the slide deck and the worksheet.
I got it.
But yeah, I'm actually going to introduce you to Joe.
Okay.
And that way you'll see that come across today, so you can give that to Jill and anybody else who's in that circumstance. Okay. Well, ladies, it was an absolute pleasure. I actually have to run. I have a call in 3 minutes. I am a resource for you all. If you need anything or you want to hop on a 30-minute call and work some boundaries out, or if you know somebody who's struggling right now, I am a resource, and particularly in our community, but I'm not limited to here. I've got clients all over the world. So I am offering that right now during COVID because it's my way to give back.
Thank you, Jen, so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You've been a very